welcome to Radio Vril. So first things first, I would like to go through the creation of modern psychiatry stemming from cybernetics in the 1950s, and then I will proceed to the etiologies of the psychospiritual so-called mental maladies. So let's see, cybernetics in the 1950s. There was the Macy Conference related circle, cybernetic boards that were engaged in developing social engineering and other behavioral models of societies and of the minds. So here we have the list of some people that were contributors. Erich Fromm was not a core member, but he was responsible for inventing the Dionysian model of a society that was later society engineered as the hippie movement. They wanted to see how easily governable will those people be, shoving drugs onto the market and so on, as well as, well, it didn't go well because they protested against the Vietnam War, right? Right, so that was the end of the hippie generation. Now, what is the cybernetics role in the development of pharma psychiatry? Neural network modeling, feedback loops, mechanistic view of the mind, foundation of biological psychiatry, psychotherapy influence. Now, cybernetics and social engineering, such are the contributions as we can see. Legacy foundations for behavioral psychology and conditioning, tools for military psyops, social control technologies, surveillance, data-driven behavior, social credit systems. Summary, pharma psychiatry, tada, societal engineering, tada, it all started with cybernetics. So, the concept of mind as the feedback system influenced many modern fields from artificial intelligence to behavioral economics. And the intelligence programs starting with MK Ultra and psychiatric shock troops or patients and inmates at the psychiatric hospitals that were tested as, let's say, lab rats for how the mind and brain work so they can build their models, test their drugs, modify their minds and see what are the results. So, the thing I would like to explain is on Galenian medicine. The eucrasia meant a total health. Now, we never have total health, neither spiritual, psychological or physical. But there is something called dyscrasia that may appear in individuals with a psionic potential in a modern civilizational detritus world. And there will be more and more insanes, not only because the civilizational disease goes on, but their souls and minds go insane. So, let's start. The one-eyed in the land of the blind are gods. If you see spirits and so on, if you interact with them, you're like a god amongst mortals. However, let's start from the psycho-spiritual dyscrasia. For example, when a person either has organic predisposition, his psycho-spiritual immunological system goes down. The shieldings, the soul astral barriers and all that. On top of that, such a person may have some biological inclination towards certain maladies and may or may not have the skills or inclinations toward psionical, spiritual, soulful, magical tendencies, skills. So this may influence the dysfunction of the psychic apparatus. For example, some schizophrenics that hear voices that are talking to them intrusively. They cannot get away from them. These are astral larvae that connect to the Broca's area, the aural cortex, and they feed off their mental energy. They cannot get rid of it. They need to focus on it. And these thick larvae go stronger and stronger until they are removed. And I've seen such things with second sight. I suffered from such astral larvae from a long time. Right now I have clear audience. I can see here actually bastards traveling through the astral and talking. Then again, what else can happen to a mind? You can have various dimensions kernelized and connected to your mind. You may be also inhabited, embodied by various entities, Not necessarily, but also. Don't call it possessions. You can emanate, you can be possessed too by entities, for good or bad. You may be an avatar of some higher deity. You may portalize, cohabit. You may well, there are many modus operandi that I described in my occult works. So how can it influence the brain, the nervous system? First of all, it may create organic trouble in your guts, in your brain, in your nervous system. It can be influencing the psycho-spiritual maladies and disbalances. So these may be mixed organic and psycho-spiritual diseases. It may influence your neurocognitive circuits, emotive, behavioral, instinctual mapping. So these ethereal things, apart from your mind and brain as it is, its structure, its cognitive, affective, neurological wiring, they may influence the biochemistry in your mind, certain circuits, neurological circuits that are transport to biopsychological behaviors, and electric conductivity, ionotropic conductivity in your nervous system. The psychiatrists don't know shit about it because they are not trained to, and they are not usually magical seers. So this leads the patients, the inmates, to psychiatry, pharma, therapy, the paradigm of the psychic illness. They are usually pacified, zombified, they manage their symptoms without knowing the etiology. So methods to combat this. First of all, rewiring, strength of mind, meditation training, autotherapy, magical techniques, intellectual yoga, gymnosophy, theurgy, neurological rewiring, assistance from gods and goddesses and various healing entities that can heal your nervous system. I like to say that my brain was healed by the draconian gods, to whom I am loyal. The training of resilience, filtering skills, offensive, defensive, psychomagical capacities. Now this is leading to a highly contained psionic material, substance matter, and balance. It means that you have very strong psycho-spiritual apparatus and a strong mind. You are a trained baked magician, for example, and you are understanding that you need to take into account the societal frames of functioning. Even if you are a two-headed doctor and you see these spirits and interact with them and go all magical about it and use your stratagems, most people don't know about it. So you don't behave in certain manners amongst people if you see the spirits, because you know they don't know and they would act weirdly, or if you act weirdly, you are relegated back to psychiatry, this cybernetic bullshit. So in a specialized magical environment, psychomagical psyops, there's no stability, you need to adapt. The psychomagical and psionic attacks are very common, especially if you know too much. In the eyes of this society, you're a Vidya is insane. If he masks this, in the eye of psychiatry, he dissimulates or masks his insanity, which is complete bullshit. Now, this leads to psycho-spiritual crisis, and back to, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed are gods. So, let me just add this little picture for you. There you go. Repeating. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed are gods. This is the dyscrasia, psionic spiritual skills, biological susceptibility, the destruction of psycho-spiritual immunology that may lead to dysfunction of psychic apparatus, various things connect and fuck up your mind. It leads to the maladies, organic, mixed, psycho-spiritual, the functional circuits of neurocognitive, emotive, behavioral mapping, instinctual, may be distorted, biochemistry affected, electroconductivity affected. Back to psychiatry. And methods, as I mentioned, there are many methods. Unfortunately, I have no time to write about all of them. Vidya, having, for example, the CD of second sight, the mastered psionic magical matter, societal functions, Okay, thank you.